listening to Your Brain on Air. The program will begin shortly. Enjoy.
Vous écoutez Your Brain on Air. L'émission commencera sous peu. Bonne écoute.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Your Brain on Air. I am your host, Ollie Vogt Larson, and happy Yoko Ono Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just gonna be real with you. I'm a little hype. I'm a little more hype than usual for the Olympics, but because you know what? I don't normally get invested whatsoever, but this clip just turned 20 years old. In case you don't know, they do the Olympics every 4 years. And Yoko Ono, our favorite Japanese queen, my favorite Japanese fella, I'm going to be honest with you, not like besides Miyamoto, there's not many that I'm a big fan of, but here you go. This lady, she is here in 2006, the year of our Lord, 2006. And she is going to share some wise words. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen. To start the Wednesday off right, Yoko Ono Wednesday.
Imagine peace. You may think, well, how are we going to get 1 billion people to think peace? Because if 1 billion people in the world think peace, we will get peace. Remember, each one of us has the power to change the world. Power works in mysterious ways. You don't have to do much. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Thank you.
Imagine all the people living life in peace. I love piss. If we could get a billion people to think about piss, I really think that we could get piss universal. You know, I think that's her message. I can't quite understand it. But that's besides the point. I hope that moved you in some way. I hope that it made you emotional. It certainly made me emotional. On this beautiful hump day, ladies and gentlemen, we're in the middle of the week. It's all downhill from here. You're pushing the cart back to Aldi's, and now guess what? You've taken your quarter back from that evil system, and now you're just walking back to your car. Okay? That's all that you got left for this week. And then you're going to drive home, and you're going to listen to that CD that your mom left in the car one time, and it's going to be beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a series of stories that we're going to cover today to keep your media diet healthy. I love it. I love being here with you. I hope that you love being here with me. Ladies and gentlemen, why don't we just hop right into this first story? I'm already loving the transition music, ladies and gentlemen. Early details after Bill Clinton has skipped Epstein deposition on Capitol Hill, moving to contempt of Congress charges for skipping class. Uh-oh. Ladies and gentlemen, you've played hooky, I imagine. I mean, I used to play hooky. I used to fake, mental disorders. I used to have, fake breakdowns on to my teachers in order to leave class early. That's, how good it was, where it was I'm just not feeling it, right? And I'm just really? I don't know. And I'm just I'm not feeling good. And it's I love it. And then eventually it was the peak 2010s, late 2010s. So mental health was really prioritized. And if you just went to your a counselor and said, it's hard, man, it's really hard, they just would let you have a class off or something like that. Sometimes you just sit in the car, whatever. Everybody has their ways of playing hooky. No one is guilty of nothing. Let's be honest here. Unless you were an elite ball student, you know what I mean? And you were just able to do it because you had all your grades in order. You have what are the early outs called? Where you have all your classes done so you can leave early. One of those people, one of the really smart folk that has all their shit in order and then just heads out middle of class. That's awesome. Anyways, I've played hooky many times. I'm sure you have too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the former president of the United States, President Bill William J. Clinton, he did not appear for a scheduled closed-door deposition on Capitol Hill yesterday, Tuesday, January 13th, as part of a House Oversight Committee investigation into the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Not very fun, right? The Republican-led committee chaired by Representative James Comer of Kentucky had subpoenaed Clinton along along with his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, to testify about their past associations with Epstein. Why they wouldn't bother to maybe subpoena, I don't know, the president? That's a person that's like, he's there. Like, I don't know about you guys. I don't know where Bill Clinton is. I don't know where he lives. But I kind of know, like, Pennsylvania Avenue. I know where the other guy is. This includes documented travels by Bill Clinton on Epstein's private plane in the early 2000s. Importantly, no one is accusing the former president of any wrongdoing. The committee is just simply saying they have questions about those connections. The subpoenas were originally issued last year and approved in a bipartisan vote by the committee, which we have to remember here. This was a bipartisan supported type of move. So I support the idea that no matter what you are, Democrat, Republican, we got to get your ass, looked at. You got to get a full colonoscopy if you were on the guy's plane. I'm not going to lie. It should be like a public tongue lashing by the Congress. That's what it is. I know that my description is vaguely gross, but it's true. That's like what public figures should have. It's like only they should appear in public if it's like people in the Senate giving them shit, and then we get Twitter moments from it. That's the only reason that any of these people should be appearing in public. Let's just review the exact clip. They have this, camera focused right here. This is on X, the GOP Oversight Committee's channel, and it's just an empty chair with a name tag that says William J. Clinton and an undrank bottle of water with no logo, of course, because for some reason Congress hasn't gotten real and just started paying Ice Mountain or whoever.
Good morning. This is a deposition of former President William J. Clinton conducted by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. On July 23, 2025, the Subcommittee on Federal Law Enforcement unanimously voted to approve a motion directing the committee to authorize and issue a subpoena to former President Clinton for a deposition. I'm going to note for the record that former President Clinton is not present. The time is 10:07. I will note that the time is now 10:10 and former President Clinton has still not appeared. Does the chairman wish to add anything to the record?
Yes. It's a shame President Clinton failed to appear in accordance with our duly authorized congressional subpoena. This subpoena, I might add, was voted on by the Oversight Committee in a bipartisan fashion. The Oversight Committee will now initiate contempt of Congress proceedings against the former president for defying the law.
Well, shit, Bill. After Clinton failed to show up for his Tuesday morning deposition, I mean, fuck, this is nuts. Apparently, Chairman Connor announced that the panel would move forward next week with proceedings to hold him in contempt of Congress. Hillary Clinton's deposition was set for today, Wednesday, and the committee has warned that she could face similar consequences if she also does not appear. In a strongly worded letter to Comer, the Clintons called the subpoenas invalid and legally unenforceable. Ooh, not great. I will say this, at least Trump shows up and turns himself in to take the mugshot. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe Hillary just doesn't want a cool t-shirt. Like, honestly, doesn't she realize that this would only help her aura if she had, like, a really badass mugshot? Maybe she can't mug for the camera quite as well. Because you got to be able to hit that, like, the Zoolander kind of look when you stare him in the face. They stated that they've already provided what information they have in writing and argued that now is the time to stand up and fight for the country's principles. What? What does that have to do with not showing up? I mean, I'm a little confused. Let's just, what's it called? There's a clip right here of the people coming out and James Comer. He's going to just like give you a little quick update.
All right. I think everyone knows by now Bill Clinton did not show up. And I think it's important to note that this subpoena was voted on in a bipartisan manner by this committee. This wasn't something that I just issued as chairman of the committee. This was voted on by the entire committee in a unanimous vote of the House Oversight Committee to subpoena former President Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton's supposed to show up tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. But with respect to the former president, he did not show up today. One reason I think most Americans want President Clinton to answer some questions is because he visited the White House. Jeffrey Epstein visited the White House 17 times while Bill Clinton was president. I've been in Congress 9 years. I think I've been to the White House 9 times in 9 years. Epstein was in the White House double the amount of time that I was under one president.
Wow.
And then we know that Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane somewhere around 27 times after the presidency. So no one's accusing Bill Clinton of any wrongdoing. We just have questions, and that's why the Democrats voted along with Republicans.
Democrats, I don't know why they can't get a less dumb pronunciation. Most Republicans, they pronounce Democrats. I understand that Republican, Democrat, they just sound American and dumb when you say them out loud. I get that. I understand it. I just wish that maybe like they could, maybe it's because he's Southern. It's just his pronunciation. It doesn't sound very smart. I don't know. Southern accents, I don't associate them with being very high IQ. Then again, the British, they may hear me, and I would understand if anybody hears my accent and thinks, I know, like, who is this guy? He should be working at a steel mill outside of Duluth.
Speaking of Bill Clinton, not a single Democrat showed up today. I think it's very disappointing. As a result of Bill Clinton not showing up for his lawful subpoena, which again was voted on unanimously by the committee in a bipartisan manner, we will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
All right. Well, you can. I don't know how much he's going to like it. I don't know. He certainly does like having things held against him.
And former First Lady and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton say they will not testify before a House committee on the Jeffrey Epstein matter. That, of course, comes as today's the deadline for Bill Clinton to make that appearance. Former First Lady's deadline is tomorrow. A lot of photos of former President Clinton have surfaced in troves of documents recently released.
They're showing the hot tub photo where he's like laid back and shit like that. There's like someone censored and shit like that. Like I've continued to say, that what they don't know is that I'm under the water.
By the Justice Department. A Clinton spokesperson previously said the former president did not know about Jeffrey Epstein's
photos
crimes,
with Mick Jagger.
And went on to say that the Trump administration should release all files related to Mr. Epstein.
Damn.
I think everyone knows by now Bill Clinton did not show up, and I think it's important to note that this subpoena...
Oh my God. I didn't see this until I saw this clip, but the James Comer, the gentleman who's giving this press conference, has a woman standing next to him holding the painting that Jeffrey Epstein owned in his home, and it's a painting of Bill Clinton in a dress, pointing at the camera, sitting in a chair. And if you're unfamiliar very much with the case, the situation with Monica Lewinsky, there was a very famous dress with a particular, I'm gonna say, let's use the 18th century, bleeding into the 19th century term for it, jism stain. There was a jism stain on it, and that was a key piece of evidence during the testimonial and the deposition. So that appears to be the dress that he is in. A lot of people, when we first found this painting, a lot of people thought it was Hillary's DNC dress from one of them, and it wasn't actually. We later confirmed that it was a reference to Monica Lewinsky's because of the cut and everything like that. I don't know, just a little side piece, a little, not side piece in that sense, but side piece and just something side to mention.
Was voted on in a bipartisan manner by this committee. This wasn't something that I just issued as chairman of the committee. We will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt.
CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian live on Capitol Hill. So
fill us in, Nicole.
We got a little foretelling in that soundbite, Nicole.
Yeah, well, obviously the chairman of the Oversight Committee, James Comer, made clear that the committee will move forward in holding former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, the former First Lady and Secretary of State, in contempt based on not showing up today. Now, obviously, in terms of Hillary Clinton, her deposition is scheduled for tomorrow, but there is expectation that she will not show based on the letter that she and her husband submitted to the House Oversight.
I want her to show up so bad in like a bonnet. Like, she shows up really like, you fuckers made me get out of bed. She shows up like she's going to Walmart or something like that. I really want her to show up maybe like half drunk, something like that. Like, leave her alone. What is she doing? You beat her so bad in 2016 that she has retired essentially from public life ever since then. She barely does anything nowadays. She, name one recognizable thing. You can't, because no one cares about her anymore. I'm just being honest. This is the only thing the only thing keeping her relevant right now. I'm sorry. I think that PR wise, it would be a good move for her at least. Maybe not him, but for her at least to go and girl boss it up. Be like, my man's didn't do nothing. My man's isn't, because he was the first black president, so she's the first black vice president. She's like, my man's didn't do nothing. This is according to like he was so popular with the black crowd that they literally labeled him the first black president. You can look it up. It's true.
Oversight Committee and take a look at their rationale for not appearing today. They posted on X at the same time saying that this is not about right or left, it's about right or wrong. And in the statement to the committee, they said every person has to decide when they have seen or had enough and are ready to fight for this country, its principles, and its people, no matter the consequences.
I don't think she realizes when she says it's not a matter between right and left, it's a matter between right and wrong. It makes it sound like left got replaced by wrong, so the right is right. I'm sorry, it's not good. Whoever's their writer nowadays is just not giving them as good of content. It's just, it like collapses in on itself.
For us, now is that time. And so they went on to suggest that Chairman Comer was really using this process in a politically motivated fashion to try to embarrass them and bring them before the committee. They say they don't have much information to provide with respect to Jeffrey Epstein, and that in other instances they have either dismissed other witnesses or allowed them, for instance, to provide written testimony. So they simply saw this more as a political ploy. For his part, though, Chairman Comer said, look, this was a unanimous vote to subpoena the Clintons, and it was a bipartisan vote. So from that standpoint, he had every expectation that they, just like any other witness, should show up and be compelled to show up. So there certainly was some disappointment on the part of the chairman, which is why he says he and his panel will move forward with contempt.
Wow.
Live from Capitol Hill.
Thank you, Nicole. I forget your last name. Man, I don't know. How are you guys feeling about it? I'm nervous about the idea that they're just like, we don't know any explanation whatsoever. It's a curious reply. It's a curious whatever. Go into hiding. That's my best guess, because the Clintons, who cares anymore? That was the 90s. Do you guys not realize how long ago the 90s was? The 90s was 30 years ago in a lot of contexts. Most of the time it's 30 years ago at this point. Most of the time it's 30 years ago. It's like over half of the time it's 30 years ago. You can't go, oh no, it's only 20. It's only 20 years ago. No. Sorry, Unc, you're old and chopped. I'm sorry. Time is coming for all of us. It's coming for me next. You know what I mean? I'm going to be like, I'm not that old. I played Mario 64 on the DS. You're old. It wasn't a 3DS even. You're old. It's an old DS. You're an old piece of shit. You're chopped. I'm sorry. That's something we all have to live with. It's fine. It's okay, because time is beautiful, and I'm appreciative of the time that I was born in. I think that I hope that do you ever guys ever look at when you were born, add however much your family members tend to die at or whatever? I've had family members that have made it into their later 80s. I've had family members that have made it into their mid to late 70s. I try to gradiate and whatnot, try to think about what can I expect, longevity wise. I also go, well, maybe they did this, maybe this also corrugated to a less healthy lifestyle, maybe this factored into it. We always try to do that because we're always all worried about longevity. If I had to assume, I'm guessing I'm not going to make it to the 2100s. The 2100s, is that what it would be called technically? 100 years from the year 2000, it would be 2100, right? 2100. It sounds weird to say, but I don't think I'm going to make it to 2103. That's what I'm trying to say, is that I was born in 2003. I don't think I'm going to make it to 2103. I think I'm not 100 years old type of fella. I think I'm going to die before the turn of the century, regrettably. It'd be awesome to see the turn of the century. I wish that I could have lived to see the turn of the century the way that a lot of folks talk about it. Millennials, my parents, all those people, they talk about the 90s, they talk about the 70s. They're like, cigarettes. And I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. It's like, I asked this recently, and I was like, how often, I asked Gen X people this. I was like, how often does your parents smoke in front of you? And every single Gen X person I've asked this to many, many of them, I would say over 30 at this point. How often did your parents smoke in front of you? Every single one of them said all the time. all of the time. Before, apparently, the 1990s, 1980s, that era, before the 2000s and whatnot, before McDonald's banned it, smoking indoors in 1995, apparently, yeah, these people were just chain smoking in front of their kids. And some people do still. I had people smoking in front of me, but they would be like, I'm rolling down it was the 2000s and the 2010s. So the best thing that smokers did is like, if your trashy aunt had to spark one up and she would like crack the window of her Ford or like, or her Impalas were huge in the 2010s and the 2000s. She would crack the window of her Impala and she'd just be smoking those and just like flicking the ash out the window. She wouldn't even realize that the fact that I love when smokers do this. They'll hold the cigarette out the window, but then they will blow in the car. They'll just like, they'll exhale in the car and then it just gets everywhere and then they're like, I blew it at the window. What do you want? I want you to stick your head out the window. What do you think you're doing right now? You think this is a cop thriller in the 1980s? You think that you can just sit in here and fucking smoke up my windows? Only I can do that when I'm smoking blunts in here. And I only do that when the car is stationary, I might add. Like, listen, folks. Longevity. That was the original point. Longevity. I don't know how long I'm going to make it, neither do you. But, if we had to guess, let's take a wild guess. Ollie Vogt Larson, obituary published maybe like 2085. 2085. I'm going to take a guess at that. I hope I'm not correct. I really, really, really hope I'm not correct. That would really not be fun to be correct. But it is just an assumption, and who knows, maybe this broadcast will end up being prophetic. Ladies and gentlemen, instead of bumming everybody out, I'm going to go ahead and jump into our next story. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pentagon. Ooh, the Pentagon. Who doesn't love hearing about the Pentagon? I mean, I still doubt that they were hit during 9/11. You can argue it out however you want. I'm sorry. It's just not convincing. I'm not buying it, not even for a second. But they're going ahead and they're going to be honest with us for once, apparently. The Pentagon is testing a mysterious device they bought, apparently, in an undercover operation that may be linked to Havana syndrome. What is Havana syndrome? Ladies and gentlemen, it has been floated as a mystery for nearly a decade, affecting hundreds of U.S. diplomats, spies, and military personnel worldwide. It began around 2016 when American officials in Cuba reported strange symptoms like intense headaches, dizziness, vertigo, and even brain injury-like effects. Although often after hearing a piercing sound or feeling pressure in their heads. This is sort of like a ear-popping sound of like feel, you know what I mean? Like they would just feel this sense that, my head isn't right. And then all of a sudden, they would experience the symptoms. Since then, similar cases have popped up in other countries, leaving doctors and investigators puzzled about the causes. Now, in a major development, according to reporting from CNN and other sources, the Pentagon has been quietly testing a mysterious device for more than a year that some investigators believe could be linked to these incidences. Incidences? What am I even saying? The device was purchased in a covert undercover operation in the final days of the Biden administration. Homeland Security investigations, a part of the Department of Homeland Security, bought it using funding from the Department of Defense, and sources say the price tag reached into the 8 figures. That's tens of millions of dollars. What do we know about this device? It's described as portable, small enough to fit in a backpack, and it produces pulsed radio waves, a type of directed energy that some experts have long suspected could explain the symptoms of Havana syndrome. Havana, however you pronounce it. The key city in Cuba. Investigators also note and contains Russian components. Though there's still debate and no final conclusion on whether the exact device is responsible for these real-world cases, though many in the United States government assume it to be so. The government itself has not officially confirmed all of these details. Agencies involved have either declined to comment or have not responded to these requests. According to just internal suspicions, they're like, we have this thing. We don't know what it is, but it could be Russian related, and it's putting out waves that are doing something. It's very 11, it's very Stranger Things, but I'm just going to let CNN take it away so you guys can get the key details from a great source. Why not?
The Pentagon
is testing a device that could be behind mysterious ailments that hit American spies, diplomats, and troops. The illness first emerged nearly 10 years ago. That's when US diplomats in Havana, Cuba reported vertigo, severe headaches, and other signs of trauma. Later cases of so-called Havana syndrome were reported worldwide. Sources say the device was purchased for millions of dollars in an undercover operation in the last days of the Biden administration. Senior national security reporter Zach Cohen joins us now from Washington. What more are you learning about this, Zach?
Yeah, it's interesting. Sources telling us that the Pentagon spent millions of dollars to purchase this device as part of an undercover operation conducted jointly with the Department of Homeland Security in the waning days of the Biden administration, and that U.S. officials have spent over a year now examining the device, studying it, and still have not definitively concluded whether or not it is linked to those mysterious health incidents. Over a dozen that we know of have been reported, but there is new evidence suggesting that it potentially was, and we're learning from our sources that the makeup of this device really is something that investigators have honed in on. They've found that the device produces what's known as pulsed radio waves. That's something U.S. officials and academics have long speculated to be the source, the cause of these symptoms that have been reported by U.S. spies, diplomats, and troops around the world, and some domestically. We're also learning that while not entirely Russian in origin, the device is comprised of various Russian components, which obviously raises significant concerns and questions about a country that the U.S. considers to be a foreign actor.
This was where I go. I didn't know that Russia had such capabilities. Name a Russian car. None? Maybe there's something called, the Minkia or something. I don't know. But I'm just they don't seem a very industrial people. I'm sorry, they don't seem like a very industrial people to the point where I think that they're intelligence agencies. Listen, I get that they're KGB, they're tough bitches, but, I didn't assume, and I don't know why I didn't assume, that they would be helping out the Cubans to blow up the heads, and not scanners blow up the heads, but you're gonna out of commission these people by giving them internal headaches with a device that you point at them. I don't know.
Adversary potentially having some role in developing this device that is suspected of being used to target U.S. officials around the world. And we're also told, too, that a key part of this is that the device is relatively small and it can fit into a backpack. And that gets to one of the core questions that has been on the top of mind for U.S. officials is how can a device that caused so much damage, the damage that's been reported by these victims, but also be portable? It seems this device would check that box as well. So we're going to continue to push the U.S. government, the U.S. intelligence community, the Pentagon, and Department of Homeland Security for more clarity on this. You may remember that the CIA, their response to these victims has really shifted over time. Those victims feel largely that the Biden administration and to date the Trump administration has largely dismissed their reported symptoms, their calls for some sort of an answer as to an accountability as to what happened while they were serving their country. And key concern here is,
I would love to ask this: how long are we gonna have to wait until we start seeing them deploy this on us, on civilians and shit? I'm curious when you're gonna see protests broken up with the Havana syndrome, big light. You know how they create a huge. It's going to be a bat signal type of thing that they wheel in that is just a giant speaker. It's like the speaker with eyes and that screams and shit that you always see in the TikTok comments. And then they're just going to blow this sound at a crowd of people that are maybe getting a little too loud for comfort. And then they're going to all just drop to their knees. They already have devices that'll clear streets. They already have devices. You see it on Instagram all the time. That famous clip of protesters blocking up a street, and then they blast the radio wave or the sound waves, and then they clear out the street because it hurts their ears and shit. I mean, sound waves, radio bombs. They're going to deploy everything. And guys, if you think this is this is just the government, this is just Cuban government officials that are just fucking with other CIA officials, I promise you, there are enough of these devices that are getting in the hands of sex traffickers, criminals, robbers, like people who are scoping out banks to rob. Like, these are people. I promise you, it is only a matter. It's only a matter of time. In the words of all the cast from Hamilton, it's only a matter of time until these things trickle down to the hands of lesser individuals who will get a hold of this new fun technology and will be like, how do I get my neighbor to move out? I'm not a big fan of my neighbor. Oh, what if I just give them perpetual headaches until they leave? What if I just continue to get, like, I just point this device at the ground and then I draw this person out of their apartment? Eventually, you know what I mean? Who knows? Havana syndrome might go worldwide, and we have no clue. We have no clue. You have no clue. I'm only making my best assumptions based on the information that I have. That's all that I can say. It's raising a lot of questions.
If this device does prove to be viable, it could mean that it was potentially proliferated, meaning that there could be several foreign countries that have this capability and could potentially use it against U.S. Service members, U.S. diplomats abroad in a way that this device is suspected to have been used.
Or citizens.
Important to follow up on and to, hopefully find out more for those victims. Zach, appreciate it. Thank you.
Joining us now is the editor for The Insider, Michael Weiss. And Michael, you've been reporting on Havana syndrome for quite a bit now. What's your reaction to this new reporting?
Well, first of all, it's a fantastic piece by CNN, and it sort of conforms to a lot of what we at The Insider had alleged 2 years ago in a collaboration with 60 Minutes. We found evidence suggesting that a unit of Russian military intelligence, the GRU, known as Unit 29155, everybody in the world knows who they are because these are the guys responsible for poisoning Sergei and Yulia Skripal in Salisbury. They attempted a coup in Montenegro. All that they do, Jake, is kinetic operations, right? They kill people and they blow things up. We found evidence that this unit had not only worked on research, scientific research into directed energy weapons. We have the documents from their inboxes to prove it. But we were able to locate two of their operatives in two places, two different cities at two different time periods, Tbilisi, Georgia, and Frankfurt, Germany, actually going back to 2014, so this predates Havana, Cuba in 2016, where two victims whose medical records we also examined allege that they succumbed to these symptoms. And, as you mentioned, there are neurological symptoms, traumatic brain injuries, and in some cases, really physically debilitating ailments. One guy we know is legally blind. He has to walk around with a weighted vest for the rest of his life.
Yikes.
It renders you dysfunctional at its worst.
Yeah, it's
and
horrible.
These two victims identified two of these GRU operatives and said these people were skulking around outside of our area. One case was a residence in Tbilisi, Georgia, in a suburban community. In the other case, it was Frankfurt, the consulate in Frankfurt, Germany. They're credible actors. One worked for DOJ and the other worked for a U.S. intelligence agency. So one of the main bulwarks that we've been trying to determine here is, could a device like this exist? And if so, could it be man-portable? And CNN reports that not only has the Pentagon been tinkering with this thing for a year, but it can fit inside of a backpack. And by the way, it has Russian components.
Well, that's the thing. Although the device is not entirely made up of Russian components, it does have Russian components. 2 years ago, you published your investigation linking Havana syndrome to the use of energy weapons and a Russian military intelligence unit. At the time, now Vice President J.D. Vance, then Senator J.D. Vance, responded, quote, "Feels like a lot of journalists have lost their minds," unquote. He went on to say something even weirder. Now, your investigation led to U.S. senators urging the Biden administration, bipartisan group of U.S. senators, urging the Biden administration to reinvestigate the root cause of Havana syndrome. We should note, then Senator, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio's signature is on there. I assume that J.D. Vance has called you and apologized?
You'll be shocked to discover he has not, no. And it was a very kind of churlish and puerile comment from J.D. Vance. I kind of got the impression he didn't bother to read our investigation. One of the results of that investigation, we were kind of girding our loins for what the pushback from the intelligence community was.
Gird your loins.
And what we discovered is nobody could knock down what we uncovered, right? Nobody could say this is just patently false. It was an attempt to kind of deflect and say, well, we still don't have any credible evidence, etc. But then some interesting things happened. The first was the ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment, came out, and two agencies, one of them is said to be the NSA, the other is kind of in dispute, they altered their assessment, and they said that there's now a 50-50 chance that such a device could exist. One agency went on to say it may have been used against Americans abroad. The other agency cast some doubt on that. But that was a big move of the needle in terms of evidentiary support for AHI. And then another thing happened, which is the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, which oversees the intelligence community, came out with a report last year saying that it's increasingly likely that some cases of AHI are caused by a foreign adversary.
Well, if they are, you should deal with it. I don't know. There's nothing we can really do here. We don't know exactly where this came from. Sure, it might have Russian components. We don't know that Putin himself put it together. We don't know that it was the Russians in a lab putting this thing together, but we can draw our own conclusions. We can draw our own conclusions from the story, ladies and gentlemen. It's a fascinating one. Yeah, I think that we should just go ahead and move on to the rapid fire section of today's headlines. Stuff that you need to know, that you need to cover in order to keep your media diet healthy, that I can't dedicate an entire couple paragraphs to. But I'm going to bring them up because you need to know about them. Iran is our first topic and one of our main topics for a lot of these headlines. The protest death toll surpasses 2,500 as U.S. signals support and threatens action, man. I don't say I'm not in favor of interacting. I'm not in favor of intervention. No, I don't want to knock over their government. I understand they have laws that are disagreeable. Widespread anti-government protests in Iran, triggered in late December by economic collapse in the government. Grievances have escalated to the deadliest unrest since 1979, with more than 2,500 fatalities reported by rights groups. And interestingly enough, it's not getting any better. They are set to execute their first protester. Very fascinating. I know, right? Iran executes protesters. Yes, this is the clip. This is the exact clip that I found that I am going to reference. Here you go.
Nearly 2,000 people have been killed as the Iran regime cracks down on anti-theoretic demonstrations. Live to Annie Puller in London. Good morning, Annie. The regime is planning to execute a protester today.
Oh, man.
That's right, Tegan, and there's growing fears this case could mark the start of a wider campaign over executions. Human rights groups say the 26-year-old who was arrested days ago during demonstrations is now facing imminent execution. The US State Department has also confirmed he was denied any kind of legal process and had no defence lawyer, part of what activists believe is a broader effort to really intimidate anyone still resisting the regime.
Goddamn.
Threats continue to intensify. The human cost of this unrest is really being laid bare. We're hearing this morning 9 children could be among the 2,000 people now feared dead. And this new video...
Only 9? I assumed it'd be more.
...really underlines just how violent the crackdown has become. Sustained gunfire playing out on suburban streets with security forces firing from rooftops. And in some of that video, you can actually hear young protesters yelling, "Don't be afraid," as they dodge a hail of bullets. Now,
they have just body bags, bodies after bodies after this one cell phone footage, bodies, all, not the movie, all lined up on the sidewalk, just in bags, and it's person after person. And this, by the way, the reason that we're making a fuss about it is because they've been just quietly killing people. Like, you don't make that much of a fuss when your government kills a few thousand people, but they don't, like, they're not trying to publicly execute them. They're just trying to, like, shoot one so that their buddies around them get a little scared and get back in line. But when you publicly execute somebody, you've taken, like... You are less so one guy trying to scare a crowd into submission. You're a government trying to scare your country into submission. That's why everybody's freaking out about this. I know a lot of people are going, they've already killed like 2,000 people. Quietly. They've already killed like 2,000 people quietly. This is serious now because they're killing one publicly.
Tehran is continuing to reject any responsibility over the bloodshed, blaming what it calls terrorists. However, Donald Trump isn't buying it. The US president taking to Truth Social this morning, calling on what he described as Iranian patriots to keep protesting, saying he's cancelled meetings with Iranian officials and help is on the way. Across Europe, Tegan, there's also a coordinated diplomatic...
She didn't include this. In the tweet, it says, help is on the way. MIGA President Donald J. Trump. MIGA is M-I-G-A. Make Iran Great Again, I'm guessing is what MIGA means. Not N-word with like a light A. It's MIGA. M-I-G-A. MIGA. Not MAGA, MIGA. I don't know that that's a winning one. It doesn't feel good to say. Every time I read this thing out loud, it makes me sound like a fucking racist. I don't like that. It's just what he wrote.
Effort, the UK Foreign Secretary summoning Iran's ambassador a move in lockstep with European allies to really stand united in condemning this violence.
Okay, thanks so much, Annie.
Okay, thanks so much, Annie. Now I'm going to serve face to the camera. Speaking of which, the Iran judiciary has announced fast-track trials and possible more executions of protesters. Iran's judiciary, led by Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejei, announced plans for rapid trials and executions for detained protesters in defiance of international warnings. Wow. Thousands have already been arrested, and human rights groups report mass detentions and deaths, exacerbating global tensions. Let's move it to South Korea real quick. South Korean prosecutors seek death penalty for former President Yoon Suk-yeol. Oh, yes, the fella who declared martial law. South Korean prosecutors have demanded the death penalty for ex-president Yoon Suk-yeol. Yoon Suk-yeol, over his December 2024 issuance of martial law, which led to a constitutional crisis and his eventual impeachment. This marks the unprecedented insurrection prosecution against a former president and head of state in decades. Yoon's actions were alleged to have violated constitutional orders by attempting to monopolize power with military and political allies. The court is expected to issue a verdict on February 19th. Portugal's presidential election race remains wide open ahead of the vote. Apparently, Portuguese voters are set to elect a new president on Sunday, with polls showing a competitive race with no clear majority, virtually assuring a runoff. Very, very, very fun. The French government, faces a no-confidence vote amid budget struggles. France's government confronted two no-confidence motions brought by both far-right and far-left parties over handling of budget negotiations and the EU-Mercosur trade deal. Very fun. Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu is prepared to use constitutional article 49.3 to force a budget passage, highlighting political instability since losing his parliamentary majority. I mean, France, if you don't know, it's the most visited country. It's fallen off in a lot of ways. I've had family who've gone. They say that it's dirty and that the people aren't very nice and they have attitudes, which is perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. If I was the most visited country in the world, I might have an attitude as well, with a bunch of people coming into my country and going like, oh, look at him, he's eating at a cafe and whatever, like being impressed with literally nothing. Like that's what most Americans do, is they come to watch you like eat a baguette or like ride your bike with like groceries in the little basket. That's what Americans come to see, and then they end up getting robbed by I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's like pickpockets. That's what France is known for. Every American has this dream of going to France. Oh, I'm going to go to France. I'm going to go to France and I'm going to see the Paris, and I'm going to see the Louvre and the River Seine, and I'm going to just live out my French lady lifestyle that I've dreamt about in Chicago. And eventually they end up going. They spend all their money to go to this once beautiful city, and they end up getting robbed by majority times. Sorry to say it, it's a migrant gang. It's one that'll like toss you up. You know what I mean? They'll bump into you. A bunch of them. It'll be like a crowd that walks into you, and then they bump you around from each of them. They're like, oh, sorry, and then before you know it, you touch your pockets again, and it's all gone. Your phone's gone. Your wallet's gone. Everything's gone. Sometimes it's 12-year-olds. Sometimes it's like little French boys that walk up and they'll be like, hey, excuse me, can you do this for me? Can you help me roll this cigarette or something? They'll just help get your distraction. You'll be like, is smoking legal for kids? And they'll be like, yes, or something like that. Meanwhile, their buddy, while you're talking to him, is like undoing your watch, and then it just slides off your wrist, and then these two little white boys just run away. That's exactly what France is most of the time, and a lot of people don't like it when you tell this to a lot of people who grew up only watching Ratatouille most of their lives. It's like broken because I'm sorry. A lot of the times you see people and they don't read anything when it comes to news outside of the United States, let alone outside of their own town, or like what the president has just done, like President Donald Trump, Biden. They just don't know very much in regards to anything else. So they grow up watching Victorious and all this shit, and Victorious, yeah, where she goes to Japan and shit. They grow they idolize these other countries and whatnot. Admittedly, Japan is a much cleaner country, but they go to like France and all these countries. They go to like, I don't know, what's another country that's really London? They romanticize London. Anastasia romanticizes this beautiful St. Petersburg and all that shit. And it's like, it wasn't the prettiest place, I will say that. It's like, whatever. I kind of enjoy shattering the vision that a lot of Americans have, where they're like, I'm going to go to France and I'm going to go to a cafe and I'm going to like get like what's the chocolat? What's the shit where the chocolate's extra thick and you can like dunk something in it? I'm going to get the chocolat. And then what they actually get is robbed. That's what's fun about France. The United States Justice Department under Donald Trump is also seen as a political enforcer right now. A high-profile investigation into the United States Department of Justice's conduct under President Donald Trump suggests the DOJ is being used to target perceived political enemies. Critics are arguing that this is reflecting a broader pattern of politicization of federal law enforcement. Arguments are definitely to be made for that. Denmark and Greenland diplomatic talks with the United States highlight strategic issues. I mean, Denmark and Greenland, they're face-to-face with Vance in a high-stakes White House meeting, apparently. United States Vice President J.D. Vance is hosting Danish and Greenlandic foreign ministers at the White House for a discussion likely to include defense, Arctic strategy, and geopolitical cooperation. Hey, we're going to buy you. I think that's what the conversation may be. Hungary's opposition widens lead over Orban's Fidesz's in the polls. Hungary's main opposition widens over leader PM Orban's Fidesz's breakdown. The new surveys show growing support for the opposition parties in Hungary, making the potential shift in the political momentum against Prime Minister Viktor Orban. I mean, very, very, very interesting. Final headline we're going to review: Thailand sets a date for constitutional referendum ahead of the election. Thailand is scheduling right now a constitutional referendum to coincide with their general election. What it's going to do is essentially on February 8th, alongside the general election, it's going to seek voter approval on drafting a new constitution. They're going to shake up the entire goddamn thing. I'm going to say that. This is already, they've been thinking about it for a while. Thailand, they haven't had the best governance. They've had a lot of reform and military-civilian power imbalance, all that sort of shit. Whatever. Hopefully it goes better this time. I don't know what else to say. Actually, that isn't our last headline, because I will cover two more headlines. Why not? Claudette Colvin has died. She was an American pioneer of the 1950s civil rights movement, and she was a nurse aide. She essentially was the civil rights, they looked at her and she was a teenager, dark-skinned, she became pregnant out of wedlock. She was less respectable or marketable for the middle class. So instead, even though she refused to give up her seat on the bus before the well-known Rosa Parks, she was deemed not a suitable role model for the movement. So the well-known adult Rosa Parks, whose actions gained wider attraction despite Colvin's earlier foundation of defiance, she was just like, whatever. Rosa Parks is the real queen here. So she's dead. Claudette Colvin, there she is. She refused to give up her seat at 15. I mean, that's the real bravery, is a kid doing it. Someone just going ahead and like causing a scene on a public bus when you're like a grown lady. There's so much less bravery in that. I'm sorry to say, but it is a little bit true. And also, good news, West Wing actor Timothy Busfield has turned himself in on the criminal charges of sexual contact of a minor.
News sources tell ABC News that West Wing actor Timothy Busfield, who police say was wanted on a child sex abuse charge, has just turned himself in. A criminal complaint says that the actor and director is accused of inappropriately touching a child actor back in 2022 while on set of his show The Cleaning Lady, that was starting when the boy was 7 years old. ABC's Alex Stone is following the latest from LA for us. So Alex, what do we know about how Busfield has responded to these allegations?
I love how he sighed. He was like, this bitch can't read.
It's all retribution from a family that has been angry at him because that child was kicked off of the cleaning lady, was fired by the cleaning lady, the TV show, and the family wanted retribution on him. He is saying that none of this is true, that he is going to fight these allegations, that none of it really did go on. But the family claims that their son, who was 7 and then again at 8 years old, that he was sexually abused by Busfield. But we know moments ago Busfield turning himself in Albuquerque. He's being booked right now. It's all happening as we speak. Then we should have a mugshot here shortly. We're told we will get one. All of it's going on right now.
Are we hearing anything from Busfield's wife, Alex?
We are through a statement that we just got a moment ago, Elizabeth.
Yeah, we got a mugshot. Oof, it's not a great one. If you want to look it up, it's not good. They had him they were like, look straight, and then he clearly leaned his head too far forward. The shadows are weird. His eyes are too centered. His mouth is the same width as his nose. It's a bad picture. I'm sorry.
From it says, during this period, her focus is on supporting and caring for their very large family as they navigate this moment. Melissa stands with and supports her husband and will address the public at an appropriate time. So, nothing beyond that, saying that she's not going to make any comment. Again, he's saying this is all retribution, that it did not go on. The family claims it was very real and that their son was sexually abused, and he has turned himself in now.
Man. Well, I don't know what else there is to say about that. It's regrettable. It sucks that happened. It sucks. But, hopefully for him, if this is all malarkey, as former President Joe Biden would say, if this is all malarkey, it'll all come out. It'll all come out in the wash. That's how this shit does. You know what I mean? You know when your mom used to say that to you? It'll all come out in the wash. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? When she would say, go play outside. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about... Ollie, you haven't been outside all day today. It's a beautiful day outside. You never go outside. You know what I mean? You stay inside. You play the Steam. You play the Steam games. That's all you do. You play the Steam games and you don't go outside. Go outside and play. Everybody remembers that, right? That was everybody's childhood, playing mostly Steam games. And then it was the hour designated outside time where it was listen, my parents, they knew that I was not an outdoor person, so they were like, hey, you gotta do a minimum of 30 to 60 minutes, please. You got it. For you. Not for us. Not for us. For you. And I appreciate that, because that encourages me nowadays to go out and get walks and shit like that. That inspired me. I appreciate them for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what else to say about that except for I want to hop into our final story so I can dismiss y'all. So let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, tensions in Minnesota are persisting as ICE agents are now clashing with protesters. Not fun to see them clashing. I don't like clashing. Clashing is not my favorite. Wait a minute. Clashing with protesters?
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
I mean, folks, I feel the exact same way. This all stems from the deadly incident last week in Minneapolis. ICE agents fatally shot a 37-year-old U.S. citizen named Renee Good during an immigration operation. Shooting had sparked major widespread outrage. We all know about it. Demonstrations across the Twin Cities, and even across instituting walkouts in suburban schools. A lot of these kids, they're like, I'm gonna make a real difference, so I'm gonna skip class. We know what's going through all these kids' heads for real. It's not oh, I was so deeply moved by the video of whatever. It was nah, Mrs. Eglinton is a bitch, and I'm gonna skip her literature class so that I can just say that I care about somebody. Who are we here for again? That's what everybody was saying. Who are we here for again? Who's that? What? Oh, yes. What was her name again? Ronald Good. Ronald Good. Stand up for Ronald Good. Be good. Ronald Good. Protesters have gathered in large numbers, often shouting for ICE to leave the neighborhoods and blowing whistles to alert communities about federal activity. I mean, it's kind of silly when you're getting in the way of people who are genuinely here illegally or who have overstayed their visas. When you're getting in the way of an actual ICE operation or someone who's being detained or deported for being a violent offender, that is making you look so much worse. When you go after people who like, oh, what are you doing? And they're pulling out people who like were running maybe a sex trafficking operation, a meth operation, whatever. And you have people who are still with the protests going like, get ICE out, 100%, no ICE, abolish ICE. Those are the craziest people that I hear, is like, abolish ICE. This is where we get to like the defund the police angle of stuff. As long as we can just keep things nice and chill, guys. Keep doing the candlelight vigils. Keep doing that type of shit. Federal officers have also used tear gas, pepper spray, flashbangs, all the other crowd control measures that we love to disperse them. Blocking roads surrounding agents, gathering near federal buildings. That's what most of these crowds have been doing. Like the Whipple Federal Building is one main one that people have been going to. Reports describe intense confrontations with some protesters allegedly blocking ICE vehicles or operations, leading to arrests. I mean, dozens in recent days. Or agents breaking car windows, in at least one case removing the drivers. The actions have spread beyond the metro area, with ICE reported in places like gas stations, malls, and residential neighborhoods. Let's head to the news. CBS, what have you got for us?
Protests against ICE are not letting up out in Minneapolis, and we've learned there are now roughly 2,800 federal agents in the city, which is more than double the amount of local law enforcement. CBS News correspondent Lana Zach is there.
Just a block from where an ICE agent shot and killed Renee Good last week, demonstrators filled the streets Tuesday as a group of federal law enforcement detained this man. We arrived as it was happening, with tensions flaring between residents and masked federal officers.
Did you see what happened? They just stopped him. Traffic. He was driving by. Just driving by. And now we've got, how many agents do we have here with their pepper spray in hand, ready to attack us? We're on our streets. They say, get off our street. I pay for this street.
Such incidents occur most every day here, affecting both immigration enforcement targets and protesters.
From my cell, I could hear like wailing and desperate crying of people in the facility.
Patty O'Keefe says she and a friend were following ICE agents on Sunday. When they were stopped, their car pepper sprayed and their windows smashed, before being taken to a federal detention center.
3 ICE agents that were in the car with me immediately started taunting me. The driver of the car said, you guys got to stop obstructing us. That's why that lesbian is dead.
O'Keefe says she was held for 8 hours before being released without charges.
What do you say to people who feel like these agents are doing what they need to do, they're following the law, and you and other protesters are on the wrong side of history? The law is not always the best barometer of what is moral and just.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. But I would argue doing this is not doing you or your brown or black neighbors any services. Quite frankly, you're making a scene. Quite frankly, you're making a scene of yourself. It's, yikes.
Down to DHS for comment on O'Keefe's detention and allegations, but have not heard back. Today marks 1 week since Renee Good was killed here, and that was very much on the mind of O'Keefe. She says that during her own altercation with ICE agents, I asked her if she would continue protesting after all of that, and she said she knows that there's risks, but Errol, she says it's worth it.
All right, Lana Zach, keeping up our coverage there of Minneapolis. Thank you very much.
You know, hey, if you guys wanna record ICE, if you wanna stand on the sidewalk when they're in the road and you wanna keep your distance, I'm gonna mandate this for anybody who listens to this show. Minimum distance of 10 feet, all right? 10 feet is a good distance. No ICE agents come within 10 feet of you. You need to make sure that you are just like, if you're looking to verify if they're real ICE, ask them your questions, but for the love of you, not the love of God. Fuck that right now in this situation. Not for the love of God, for the love of your life. For the love of everything holy that you hold sacred. Don't be stupid. You can be, like, people will confuse bravery for stupidity. People will sometimes be stupid and they think they're being brave. You're not being brave. A lot of the times you're not being brave. You're putting yourself and you're putting others in your community in danger when you continue. Listen, when you escalate a situation, and I say escalate because yes, you're escalating when you know that these people are not trained, when you know that these people should not be working as federal agents most of the time. They're like losers. They're losers who watch too many action movies and thought it would be cool to defend the homeland. And you think that these people are emotionally stable enough for you to walk up and explain things to them? No. So for your safety, I'm not saying they're in the right. And you can try all you want to say, yeah, blah, 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 blah. No, it's not going to work. I'm just saying this for you, baby. Don't do that. That is not in your interest. Be safe. Ladies and gentlemen, that's really all I can leave you with for today is be safe. There's going to be so much shit happening. There's going to be so many people telling you to fucking burn down a Target. Let's go do this. Let's throw a brick through Balenciaga. Let's not. Let's keep it chill. And let's keep it relaxed, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. I'll catch you tomorrow for Thursday's broadcast. As you know, we do Monday through Friday. Subscribe if you want more, like if you liked it. I cannot wait for tomorrow's broadcast. But in the meantime, this has been your Brain on Air with Ollie Vogt Larson. Thank you all so much for listening. I'll catch you in tomorrow's broadcast. But in the meantime, bye-bye.